Hey everybody, Eric Schweitzer here for a very romantic episode of Your Favorite Game, joined by my two lovely co-hosts, George Fishlips Foster.
Hello, lots of love.
And Stacey Hubba Hubba Henley.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate both of them.
I'm killing it. Happy Valentine's Day to you both.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And you?
Are you celebrating with your significant others? You do anything on Valentine's Day?
Dinner.
Yes. Classic.
Easy.
Are
Dinner
you going
and
out?
Presents. Yeah, pizza. I know how
You're
it
going
goes.
out to pizza?
Yeah.
You know pizza comes to you.
Yeah, like a fancy pizza. No Domino's. This is a
fancy.
Prezzo.
Yeah.
Prezzo.
Yeah.
For people who aren't in the UK.
Prezzo.
It's not a fancy pizzeria.
It's fancier than Domino's.
It's fancier than Domino's. No, it's nice. It's nice. It's a nice date.
They got pinball machines there?
They don't. Otherwise, I would not be at my date at all.
I was wondering why you're going. Yeah. Stacey, what about you?
I am on a double date with two of our closest friends. One of whom listens to this show every week. Hello, Scott. We do, the four of us do everything together to the point where real life friends have asked us with not entirely joking vibes if we are in fact all one big... What's it when you add one more to a polycule? Yeah. Not a throuple because there's four of us.
A quadruple.
So we are going to dinner and a show. That's a classic date.
Yeah,
it's like a movie. It'd probably be nice.
You want to see Captain America?
To the theater.
Ah, I see.
To see the movie musical of Dolly Parton's life, which is less prestigious than the theater.
No, it sounds fun though.
Yeah,
Eric, what about you?
We don't do Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day, just because, especially in like around LA, it's like everything's got this fixed menu and they pack people in and it's just like crowded. Like we've done the Valentine's Day dates and it's always more hassle than it's worth. So we did, but we do celebrate. We went to Sweetheart Nights at Disneyland this year.
Of course, Disney.
Special ticketed event. It's very fun. You have special photo ops and the lines are really short. And yes, it's a good Disney time. We have another one coming up next month. It's 90s Night, which we're pretty psyched for.
Because there's nothing in March, so it's just the
they're
90s.
like, that's the 90s. Yeah. Yeah, and that's when they trot out the Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck, and pretty cool.
All comparison before George's time.
Yeah, the best one, George, is Oogie Boogie Bash for Halloween. That's when the Kingdom Hearts characters come out. So
they still come out?
Yeah.
Oh, this whole episode is actually Kingdom Hearts. Oh, that was too far. That wasn't good. I'm almost going to take the glass off out of upsetness and accessibility.
We're recording this before the state of play. They might be about to reveal.
That's true.
Kingdom Hearts 4.
No, they won't.
That's true.
No, they definitely won't. But they might be.
I don't even want to talk about Kingdom Hearts for this whole episode about romance.
It's a change.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. We might get mentioned. We'll see. This week's episode is all about our favorite romances in video games. And for once, I think I want to say that all of mine are pretty recent. And I think that sort of goes along with maybe the evolution of narratives in games.
How games work, yeah.
Yeah, like characters and relationships have gotten more real, more interesting, deeper than they used to be. We can definitely talk about some classic ones, but all of my favorite ones that I came up with are pretty new games. What about you two?
Yeah, pretty much the same.
My actual favorite, I think, is 10 years old. And I have a couple of older ones, but yes, the majority of ones that I was thinking of were newer games.
Yeah, I also had to stretch a little bit to not always talk about the same games we always talk about. This is our 21st episode. And I do try to not just talk about the same games every week. But, at a certain point, the games we've played are the games we've played. So
I've never brought mine up before.
Cool.
Not even as an honorable mention.
Mine is a massive game that we almost never talk about. So I think this will be fun. It is George's turn to go first.
Yes.
George, what
ask me the golden question?
Your favorite video game romance?
So my favorite video game romance is kind of controversial, and I'm really curious about what Stacey especially is going to think.
All right.
It's Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth with Ichiban and Chitose,
Ooh, that's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I did actually struggle on this one. I've got a long list, but I couldn't think of one that like really stood out to me. There was games we've talked about so much, like The Last of Us, and I won't keep naming games, that spoils my list. But something about Ichiban and Chitose.
It's sorry, is he not with Saeko in?
Oh my god, it's Chitose the new one.
Yeah.
Oh no!
That's fine. I just wanted to check.
Still counts. So what's the actual game?
So it is still Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
There's two female characters, just got them mixed up.
Yeah, so it's like
okay.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
And that's your favorite. Okay.
That's my favorite that I don't name the name of.
This is interesting because I have heard Stacey, but mostly Meg, talk for hours and hours about Like a Dragon, and I've never heard that there's a romantic relationship in this game.
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird and complicated because it's like, to my knowledge, Yakuza doesn't really do them all that much. Like, people don't really talk about it much. I'm not.
Kiryu has a long-term romance in the kind of, I was in the base games, the original games, but
it's gone by
Ichi
like
is
the
a
later
different
games,
kind of,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So it kind of doesn't, it becomes like a null point within a certain point of the series. Like, it's more like a reference, part of the past. But obviously, Ichi's a whole new start. Like, he's a whole new character.
Yeah.
Whole new history ahead of him.
So
and
what's the deal? Who are they? What's the dynamic?
So Saeko is someone you meet in Like a Dragon, just called Like a Dragon.
Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
Yakuza Like a Dragon. And I can't remember the exacts of how they meet, but basically Saeko becomes like one of your party members. And in the first game with Ichiban, I sensed no like romantic tension. I don't know if you felt that, Stace. Like, there's no dynamic.
There's not a lot of romantic tension. No, she kind of grows in terms of confidence in business. She becomes a club owner, and you're kind of helping her with that journey, while also, you know, tracking down the main plot of the game, which is Ichi trying to like figure out his place in the world. So he ends up with a lot of people. I'm talking over you now, Judd. Sorry, but he ends up with a lot of people who are also outcasts. So there's Nanba, who is a homeless guy. There's Adekshi, who is the he's police, but he's like he's not quite retiring, but he's like being pushed out to the side, and he's got his old way of doing things, and he doesn't want to be corrupt, but he also doesn't really get new policing. And Saeko is part of that. She is kind of positioned to be a club dancer. You know, that's what kind of, if a girl wants to work in a cabaret club, they serve the drinks. They look pretty, they sing, and she is a singer. But she doesn't want to do that. She wants to find a place in the world. And through her, that's, you know, she kind of half manages the club anyway, doesn't really get any credit for it because she's just a woman. So Ichiban, I think, helps bring all of those characters out of their shell a little bit, which kind of sets up how their relationship kicks off in Infinite Wealth, which George is.
Yes, well, hang on. So we've talked about Ichi before. He's one of my favorite protagonists.
Yeah.
I love his dynamic, his sort of hopeful, positive energy, best in everyone. Like, that is why those games work so well, bringing out the best in everyone. And part of that is because, like, he's lost most of his life. Like, he's lost most of his life in prison. He's almost fresh-faced to this new world. So romance is something, like, obviously in
heavily
his past,
implied he's a 40-year-old virgin.
Yeah, exactly. heavily implied that he's a virgin still. And he's, like, fresh to this world. So I guess in the first game, you never even consider it a possibility. Like, especially with Saeko, there's no tension. There's kind of like a sense of, you know, he's a boy, she's a girl, so maybe they'll get together kind of thing. Like, that's the vibe I got at the end. But then in Infinite Wealth, which takes place, like, there's a bit of a time gap, and Ichi's doing really well. Like, he's kind of settled back into the world. The first few hours of that game are all about him trying to get with Saeko, like, to profess his love to her. And it is just the most adorable, innocent, natural, like, sense of love that you can have for a person. Like, Ichi doesn't understand, like, how to play games, he doesn't understand how to woo anyone, but he's still trying because he just really, really feels for her. And that first date is one of the most awkward, like, cringe-worthy moments. Yeah, because the date itself doesn't go that bad. Like, they have a good rapport because they're friends already. Like, you can tell there is actually sparks between them, even if you didn't realize it at first. And then Ichi launched into this massive speech where he professes his love, like, fully saying that he loves her, saying that he wants to marry her. So, of course, naturally, she just completely ghosts him, leaves him on red. And then throughout the events of Infinite Wealth, it's kind of, Ichi's obviously got bigger issues. He's dealing with finding his mum, stuff like that. But he's always thinking about Saeko. It's always kind of thinking back to her. There's always references to it. And just their dynamic was one of my favorite parts of Yakuza Like a Dragon. And then to see how it carried over into Infinite Wealth and what they did with it. It was just really sweet. Like, it's really cringe, really awful, but it ends up being really nice, which I think is the magic of Like a Dragon in a whole, really.
I think the way it kind of deals with the depiction of women as well is really interesting, because obviously the Yakuza games, they've always been very propelled by kindness. They've always had that kind of positive masculinity at the forefront. But in every game, including Infinite Wealth, you can go to clubs and get served by women in bikinis, and there's a love app where you can like lie to women and then meet them in a hotel room, and there's always that kind of layer of things in those sorts of games. And I think Infinite Wealth does a really good job of trying to readdress those things in a very realistic way, because what Ichi does is what I think a lot of men believe is what women want. He's like, and you don't need to work anymore, and I'll make all the money, and you just need to stay home, and like I'll give you 1 million babies. And he's very like, this is what I have been told that love is supposed to be. And when you consider that Ichi, the reason the fights are the way they are in Infinite Wealth is because he thinks he's in a video game. That's why you fight people who are like in sleeping bags or like turn into monsters.
Yeah.
They're not, that doesn't really happen. He sees his life as a game of Dragon Quest.
Okay.
That's the canonical reason why because people comment on it at times and like, why is Ichiban like describing them as sleeping bag monsters? It's just a guy. It's just like a guy standing there with like a walking stick. So he sees all this through this very exaggerated fake lens. So when he goes on a date, he does it through the same kind of over-enthusiastic way. And it's through the game. Like, you go to the bar in Infinite Wealth in Hawaii, and you talk to Namba and to
actual Chitose.
Chitose, and the other guy whose name I can't remember. Tomizawa.
Yes,
Tomizawa's
my favorite. Yeah, I love Tomizawa.
His first name's Eric, so we definitely should have remembered that. You talk to Eric, and he, through all of those, Ichiban kind of just, I don't know, learns a little bit more about other people's problems, maybe some more grounded issues, and he ends up going back on the first date and being better at it. Saeko's like, there's 1 million guys that I meet who are like, you're so pretty, have some money, have some chocolates, have some flowers, you now are my concubine. And a lot of women in the world would still go for it, in the world that Like Dragon creates and in the real world, would still go for that kind of old school romantic chivalry.
Sure.
But the first game spends a lot of time telling us that Saeko is not that kind of person. And Ichiban should know that because he's with her for that. So when he treats her the way he thinks women should be treated, he's treating her as a woman and not as a person.
Yeah.
And that's how their relationship develops, which I think is what makes it really interesting. And probably the reason it doesn't get mentioned as much when we talk about it is just because there's so much in Like a Dragon. And it's not a romance where you get to kind of choose. You don't get to say, ooh, I'm going to make him gay and kiss Namba.
Yeah.
Ichiban is Ichiban. He has his own path. There's no RPG-ness to it. He is a character who is in love, and we will see that unfold through the story.
Yeah.
Certainly when I thought of these romances, a lot of the first examples I thought of weren't like that. They were...
Yeah,
I'm always one who brings up the RPGs. Like, they were kind of, there's 7 characters, and you can bang 5 of them.
Yeah,
that's the kind of video game romances that we're used to. This is a more mature version, probably called by what Eric said at the start, which I think makes it really interesting pick, which is why I spoke over his again. Sorry.
No. This is why I was so curious to find out whether this was a weird, controversial pick, because no one ever talks about it. Yeah, like I just loved it from start to finish. I love seeing Saeko's side of it when you play as Kiryu, and Kiryu has a whole different party, including Saeko, and she talks about it. I love how Kiryu talks about it as well, and he gives Ichi advice, even though like he's not had the best romantic life.
Also possibly a 4-year-old virgin.
Also possibly a virgin, yeah. And they have this chat, Kiryu and Ichiban, they have a chat like really close to the game's finale about, Ichi proposing and stuff like that. And it's one of the best scenes in the game. And it all comes to a head right after you finish. Like, you get to the ending, they've gone on that date again, and you think like, oh my god, this is it. Yakuza finally has a stable romantic relationship that we can see evolve in the games, because that's not really a thing for it. Like we said, like it's almost in the past. It's almost a motivator for a lot of the characters. But you get to the end, you're like, yeah, he's done it, and any victory of Ichi's is a victory of the players. Like, he's just the best character ever. And then he pulls off a shirt, like, saying that he loves her, and he's all embarrassing about it, and she runs away. And I don't really, like, in the ending, I guess it's implied that they have given it another go, even if he's just messed it up again. But, like, I'm really intrigued to see where it goes, because it's a surprisingly mature, for the reasons that Stacey and I both talked about. It's immature and mature. And I think Yakuza as a series hasn't really
summed up.
Yeah, hasn't really done that. It's never really approached that. Like, the most Yakuza's tried is, like Stacey says, the sexy mini games where you can flirt in chat rooms and you can do all this stuff. But to see that,
I thought you were making a different point. I thought you were saying that sort of exemplifies what Yakuza is.
Yeah, so that's the mix of maturity and immaturity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I like when Stacey makes George's argument better.
Way better than isn't that every
I'll
episode?
say mine, you can say why my game is great.
Okay, we'll give it a try. Go on then, Stace. What is your favorite game with romance?
My favorite game with romance is a game that is all about romance, because it is Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, nice. I don't know that one.
This is fun.
Oh my god, it's like 4 hours long. Just play it. I'm going to spoil it for you entirely, and so sorry about that.
Hit me with it.
15 years old. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably my fault.
Yeah, Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel that how would I describe it? It's you are like you know how these things go. You're a guy at school, and you join a book club that's all ladies.
Hello.
And there's four characters. There's your friend who brought you to the club. There are Sayori and Yuri, and there is Amber. It kind of goes as normal. You can know visual novels where you kind of chat. You can get a feel. Yuri is a little bit more. Intelligent is probably the right word. She's like bookish, and she's tall and plain, but maybe a little bit more interesting. Sayori is very classic Japanese anime girl. You know, she has the bow in her hair, she has the bun, she's kind of clumsy and senpai. She's that kind of character.
Yeah.
You choose between those two, basically. You either go with the kind of clumsy, tropey, very girlish character, or you go with the it's an anime visual novel, it's not more sophisticated, but you go with the more sophisticated choice. You go on a date with them and you kind of find things out. Yuri's home life's not so great, Sayori's family's quite poor. You do a fun thing with them, and then you go and I meant to visit my best friend today, of course I'm gonna go. And then she's hung herself in her bedroom.
Oh, I know this one. Yeah, I've seen this all over. It turns like really creepy and horror, right? Really
creepy, really dark. Yeah. Fantastic game. There's not really a way to talk about this without fully spoiling it. So I'm just probably gonna have to a certain extent. I'll try not to spoil it too much for people who haven't played it, because I do advise you to go and play it. And what I've just said is not really a spoiler, because it kind of tells you at the start, graphic content warning, someone hangs themselves. I'm never sure how I feel about those things that take the weight out of a story, but that's for a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Anyway, the characters start acting more weird. Like, they unravel in front of you. They start becoming really bizarre in how they discuss things with you. Yuri, who was the character that I went with the first time I played it, she, like, steals your pen. And then she's like, I took this home and I spent all night smelling it. Like, okay, that's weird. And then she goes back and she's like, I put it in my underwear. Now you can smell it. Like, oh, you're real strange. Real strange lady. What's going on?
George doesn't know why this is strange at all.
Yeah. This is what happened when I went to book club. This is normal.
So the characters, the actors are acting really, really bizarre. And then I'm going to say my favorite scene, which makes me sound horrific, but I think
this whole thing does so far.
Bold for the game to do this.
Yes.
Yuri comes up to you at the end of book club or whatever. She says, "Oh, can I speak to you?" There's other things that happen. Can I speak to you? Yeah, sure. And then she kills herself. And it's Friday. And you have to wait, not in real time, but in pretty long time. You have to wait for the sun to rise and the sun to set and the sun to rise and the sun to set through Saturday and Sunday. Then sunrise on Monday and people finally come in and they're like, oh, what's happened to Yuri? Like, why? And you've just been locked in the school for the whole weekend. The game starts breaking different, like, there's some kind of the normal jump scares where like a character will just, like, jump out of the screen and scare you, but also like your mouse will move or your cursor will move and you won't be moving it. It'll look like it's crashed, but it hasn't crashed. Different things have kind of gone on, and what happens eventually is Amber, the character I mentioned at the start, she is not a real character. She is the game. She is in love with you the player, not the character. You, the actual person behind the screen. So she has hacked your game to make the characters act weird. So, like, Yuri is a little bit kind of weird and obsessive because, you know, she collects things, so she's like an obsessive character. So, like, turned up the obsessiveness, like, to 1,000,000%, which made her take the pen off you and stuff like that. You know, if you go with Sayori, because she's like, clumsy and girlish, she starts acting, like, inappropriately childish and cartoonishly clownish to the point where it's deeply uncomfortable. At which point you chose the young girl in an anime visual novel. You made your choice. And the whole thing just stops working. You have to go into your files and like delete parts of the files to get it to work. And then eventually you're left with Amber and it's just like you in space. And she stops calling you like whatever the character's name is. I think you actually give the character name at the start. Say, what do you want to call him? And it like suggests you call him like whatever.
Greg.
Yeah,
I think
they suggest a Japanese name, which I was going to try and think of without sounding, just make up something that sounds racist.
Like Ichiban.
Yes, sure. Ichiban, it would have been a better one, yeah. And then she goes, that's not your name. You are. And then whatever your name is like in your user, so she mine is Stacey, she goes like, this is you. And she dresses like back, which wouldn't affect George because every game George plays, he makes character looks like himself and calls it George. So this George would not have had the impact of this at all.
You're not George. You're George. I'm like, you got
me. And yeah, she's deeply in love with you as a character, as a player, as a person. So she's like messing with your computer, and you're like alone in this like endless vacuum of space. And like you can't get out of the game. You have to like hard close it, force it to hard crash, and then go into the files and delete Amber from it, and then boot it back up, and then like it's back to normal. So it's not as romantic as George's choice, but I love the way that it plays with the idea of why people play visual novels, the kind of the safeness of them, and turns it into something as a horror. And saying this now, there's a load of games that have done this kind of thing. This was not only the first one that I experienced that played with kind of the meta in this way, but I think one of the first visual novels to go beyond the confines of the genre. Like now we have character. To break character. Yeah, we have a lot more games that are more experimental with that these days. But I think Doki Doki Literature Club is just so vibrantly experimental. It's all whenever you think of like your favorite indie games, I know a lot of people would put forward things like Hades, things. I was just going to go start listening through super games there, things like Slither Spire, things that, you know, like, I understand there's a lot of great indie games out there, and there's a lot of great indie games that I love. But I will always put Doki Doki Literature Club really, really near the top of my list, possibly at the very top, just because I think that what it does with being a video game is really impressive. It's the same reason we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think it's the same reason why mouthwashing had such an impact on me. I like games that play around with the fact that they're a video game and do things only video games can do. When a game reminds you that you're playing a video game and manages to make that a more immersive experience, I think that's when it's really struck gold.
100%. Yeah. And I think you're right. Like it's not as novel now that so much time has passed, but when it came out, it was the most novel thing ever. Like it was pretty mind blowing.
I would have been young at the time, but I'm certain, especially in the years since, I've seen like YouTube compilations of the scariest moments, and it's pretty freaky.
Yeah,
2017.
Oh wow, I thought he was younger than that. Yeah, I would have been 18. I have no
You're
excuse
still young,
for playing
pal.
it. Yeah, sure.
Yes, great choice. Love doesn't always have to have a happy ending to be a good love story, and that's
You
not
two
one I had
always-
considered, but I totally agree with you.
You two always playing with the definitions while I'm the dummy. How do we do it
Also,
each week?
I don't know why I got most of the names wrong. Sayori is the friend who kills herself. Natsuki is the other girl, and Monaghan, not Amber, is the fourth.
Who's
person.
Amber?
She looks like this. This is now just embarrassing for me. She looks like Amber from Genshin Impact, so I called her Amber.
Gotcha. I believed you. I fully believed you. I was like, oh yeah, Amber. I remember her.
Eric, for your one now, you have to get names wrong because Stacey and I have both done
I
it.
can't.
We both have, yeah.
This is the theme.
I
It's an
couldn't
in-joke.
possibly
It's an
mix up
in-joke.
these names.
Go on, Eric. What is your favorite game with romance?
My favorite video game romance is Geralt of Rivia and Yennefer.
That's on my list. Yeah.
And Yennefer.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. 100%.
I'm
What?
surprised at you,
I
Stacey.
refuse.
Yeah,
No.
that does shock me. Why? Oh, this is a debate now. Let's go, fools.
Let me do mine first. All right?
Let's see what Eric
Jeez.
has to say.
Okay, so first of all, I will concede that you do have to bring in context to The Witcher 3 because, to be honest, there's not that much there in the game between Geralt and Yennefer. It's not the most developed relationship, but if you are also considering the novels and the show, and you're like taking
The
in
show, definitely.
yeah, if you take in the full scope of that relationship, that's why it's my favorite one. And I guess if we're just looking at the game, right? I think what's so compelling about Geralt and Yennefer is that, well, first of all, it's sort of they match each other's freak situation. They just have that chemistry, you know?
They do.
Like, they're just two fucked up people that are kind of fucked up in the same way. They have that, like, no one else could understand me the way you do kind of thing going on. Which is automatically just kind of a strong, just good chemistry. But I think like what I in particular really like about them is that so much of Geralt's character is playing the role of the Witcher. It's what people expect him to be, and the way he interacts with the world is in the role of the Witcher and everything that goes along with that. And I just feel like when he's with Yen, he's Geralt, and everywhere else he's the Witcher. And I think that's interesting. And I think, I'm also moved by their like sort of forbidden love narrative and this idea that they have so much power individually and they can affect the world so much, and they would both completely give that up for each other. And they know that they would just say, fuck the world, let it burn. Like, and just lose themselves to each other. And they like refuse to do that. Like, that's why it's not that they have like a toxic dynamic. It's that they can't be together because they know like everyone else would be worse off for it. And I just think that's strong. And I think that's like so clearly the canon relationship in the story that I kind of think it's ridiculous that there are other options. And I'm surprised that Stacey thinks otherwise.
Before Stacey begins, I just want to say I completely agree with Eric. But to tell a George anecdote, this is a good one. The Witcher 3 came out when I was 16 years old. You can only imagine.
I already hear this story.
Yeah. But I stupidly, very non-canon of me, tried to hook up with both Yennefer and Triss, and I had that special cutscene where the game just called me a massive dirtbag and a loser. So I have no horse in this race, but as a somewhat grown man now, Yennefer, absolutely, 100%. I like Triss as a character, but there's no.
Yeah, there's two layers to it. Everything that Eric said, I think, is right. I do think Yen is the canon romance. I think that's. We don't know what's going to happen in The Witcher 4, how much, if at all, Geralt is going to be in it, what they're going to do there. They should carry on from the Yennefer romance. I think that's the canon love affair that they have. In the same way that I think the canon romance is Cloud and Tifa. I disagree on both of them. When I play, I go to Aerith and I go to Triss. I think Triss's relationship is more fun. It's more the romance you have with Triss is like a little bit of levity through all of the darkness that the game has. And I think as with a lot of choices, the first time that I played The Witcher, I've only finished it once, so I haven't even seen to the end of the end thing. I know bits of it because I've read up on it and I've watched a lot of things writing about The Witcher 4, and I kind of want to know the context of things, but actually physically playing it myself, only finished it once. And I chose Triss because I just looked at the two and I was like, yeah, you.
Yeah.
That's the choice that I made. And it's the same with Aerith. I think Yen and Geralt is a fantastic romance. It's it's a legendary romance across gaming. I'm like glad also that the three of us have picked ones that aren't as choice heavy. Like obviously in Doki there's two choices really, but it's all about one. And with The Witcher, I do think
there's
Yen
right
is
choice.
the choice. Yeah, basically. even though I personally go with Triss, and I would jokingly kind of say no, that's wrong. I do think Yen is a much more canon option, and I think.
I mean, I would pick Triss for myself.
Yeah, but I was playing as myself.
Yeah, right. No. That's the an inherent problem of choice in games.
Yes,
I think Eric is so right about context, though. I think going into The Witcher 3, it was my first game, but of course, doing that meant
ever.
When I was 1, that was my first game. It has been years. Going into it, it was like I read up on it. I wanted to understand the world before, and of course, doing that means seeing Geralt and Yen, long lost lovers, complicated relationship. So maybe my brain is kind of warped into that. Maybe I consider canon to be so important, but from that moment for me, besides 16-year-old me really wanted to see both, it's always been not Triss.
Well, so she's not in Witcher 1 and 2, and so coming into Witcher 3 there's all this implied history that you just sort of have to accept. But the performances are so good, and it's just so easy to believe that these two would be in love. And they also have like this parental thing with Ciri, right?
I think that is what locks it in, isn't it?
Yeah, that's also very believable. So yeah, just one of the most like authentic feeling romances to me, and just again incredible chemistry. I have a couple more that I think have pretty incredible chemistry, but that's definitely the top of the list.
And I think that's why it's important for The Witcher 4, because obviously that's going to be Ciri.
Right.
I think it wouldn't make sense for them to go, which I think some games would. I don't think CDPR would, but I think some devs would do the kind of indulgent choose at the start of the game. I do think even though I would pick Triss, I do think they should just say it was Yennefer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Well, let me stick with that chemistry line for a second, because I have a couple more that came to the front of my mind. George, you will be enthused to hear the choice. Cal and Merrin.
Yes, they didn't even come up in my head. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is a fantastic choice. Yeah. I was rooting for them the whole game.
Yes, I love Merrin so much. That's like my favorite Star Wars character.
Yeah, Merrin's great, and obviously I love Cal. In fact, all about romance. Cal should have come to mind.
That much. He grew on me in the second game. I don't love Cal the way you do, but I think that they have a really cool relationship
from moment one as well. Like as soon as they have that conversation about when Merrin kind of turns a bit, and you actually get to see the real her, and Cal's explaining what happened to the Jedi. From that moment on, like there is chemistry there, and they go like, even there's a book in between the games that I read, and it mentions Merrin, and I was just there like legs up in the air, like oh my god. That's how nice I am.
Legs spread in the air for Merrin.
No, for Cal.
It's
interesting. Sorry, go on, Eric.
A really nice softening for both those characters, I think, because they're both very guarded, very traumatized, and they sort of get to work that out together. And I think that part of it is really well done.
Until one of them dies in the next game, and life is ruined forever.
And ruins
which is
it.
Definitely happening.
It would be really interesting, I think, to see what's the second one called? Fallen Order? No, it's a Survivor Cal interact with Fallen Order Merrin, because I don't think Merrin is in Survivor enough. I know you have a couple of segments with it, but I think having that kind of closeness, Cal is just. We can talk about, he's further on in his journey and this and this. He's better written. I don't know if they're different writers. I don't know if they're just more comfortable with him as a character. I don't know if they have more creative control. He's more interesting as a character in Survivor. That version of Cal having a romance with Merrin, I think, would be really cool to see. But I don't think they touch on that enough because so much time is spent on board and kind of the going back and forth between the planets. You don't see as much of Merrin, which makes sense for the story.
I think she'll be a full focus next time. I think they're gonna, they basically also kind of like Yennefer, Geralt, and Ciri. They have Kata to kind of raise.
I couldn't remember her name, but yes,
I'm super interested to see how that goes. I'm gutted I didn't think of that because that would have maybe made my pick.
And I wouldn't have spoke over you. So it would have been a bonus for you.
Well, I enjoyed it, so.
Okay, well, here's another one I bet neither of you thought of, but you'll both agree with me. What about Henry and Delilah in Firewatch?
Yes.
Oh
my
yeah.
God.
I didn't think of that.
No, I didn't think of that either.
It's
complicated.
Another level of like forbidden romance, isn't it? As well, because obviously he is. Is he just divorced? Is he considering divorce? He's like his wife not in a great place.
Yeah.
Ill. Yeah. But he's like
he's off the market. He's off the market is kind of the way I describe it.
I don't think he is entirely devoted to his wife, who is ill. He is there because he is running away from that relationship. Right. Whether that's because he is scared of the illness, or whether that's because he's fallen out of love with her, possibly because of the illness, possibly unrelated. Now he's kind of trapped. I think that makes that really fascinating. That they aren't just two young, pretty kids who have met, and which was really what Merrin and Cal. I know they've got like trauma or whatever, but
for sure,
they're just two hot,
two young, attractive people that we've paired up. I know they fell in love. What a shocker! In Dragon Age: The Veilguard, they said anyone can romance with it. No, the attractive woman romances the attractive man. Come on now.
I mean, you're talking about people that are isolating themselves in the woods completely alone. These are these are very unavailable people, right?
Yes.
And then they find this like really strong connection.
Literally never see each other as well. I mean, Delilah like sees Henry to sketch him, if I remember, but like they never meet face to face.
Right.
And still their relationship is so strong. But also kind of choice based, if I remember. Like, obviously, we're going to talk about canon a lot here, I fear, but most people, I assume, are going to interpret it as romantic. But you can steer away from that if you like.
Oh, I didn't remember that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I interviewed the one of the devs from Firewatch a couple of years ago now, and he was like, people don't realize that there's choices in it because the conversation seems sort of kind of natural. Like people just play it once and they think they're done with it, but actually there are a few different paths you can take.
And
I was like, that's really interesting. I've only played it once and I haven't played it since. So it wasn't that interesting.
I guess it wasn't interesting.
Only I remembered, so it's not that interesting.
And then another one that jumped to the top of my mind, a more obvious one, Ellie and Riley.
That's not the one I was going to pick.
You were going to say Ellie and Dina.
I was going to say Ellie and Dina, yeah. But now you say the relationship with Riley is really, really well done.
Really sweet. I'd still go Dina, I think. I think that's so
You get more time with Dina. It's really hard to choose.
I like the young love. I like the self-realizing, like the sexual awakening kind of thing going on there. And like, it's such a tragedy. It's more in a way more tragic than Ellie and Dina because like they didn't do anything wrong and they were just kids.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's so inevitable as well. Like, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I can definitely, you can make a very easy case for Ellie and Dina too, because it's a much more, well, it's an adult relationship. It's much more layered.
There's the pregnancy. I really love the scene. I think my favorite scene in the last, which I never hear anyone talk about, when they're in the tunnels and Ellie's mask breaks and Dina takes hers off and she's like, we can share. And Ellie has that like split second choice of either I allow that to happen to kind of preserve my secret and, my girlfriend, and it's not her baby, but her baby dies, or she kind of goes through this actually, this whole time I've been lying to you.
Right.
I am fine. I can save the world, but Joel didn't let me. I think that's a really like tragic scene.
Yeah.
There's so much to it. And obviously, they have Kim is pregnant in Abby's story, which, based off today, was probably not a name.
Is her name? I can't remember.
Is her name Mel? I think it might be Mel.
It is Mel and Kim. It is Mel.
Mel is pregnant.
Yeah.
People of my age will know who Mel and Kim are. George will not.
I do not.
So Mel is pregnant on Abby's side. Obviously, Dina then is the mirror at that. And there's the bit at the end where when they're lying there red after Abby meets them, you don't know if Dina's dead or not.
Yeah.
When Lev stops Abby from shooting her a second time, you don't know if Dina's already dead by that point.
Yeah.
It is so hard to watch.
And then obviously there's the whole ending and baby JJ and leaving the farm, and the whole thing is brilliant. I'm talking a lot, so apologies for that, but also I'm really curious how they do it in the show, because obviously they did Riley in the show. They had Storm Reed that just kind of aged them both up a little bit. That kind of worked well enough.
Yep. In
season 2, it's Isabella Merced is going to be Dina. She's not Jewish. Now, I feel a major part of Dina's character is that she's Jewish. They have the scene in the synagogue. They have that whole kind of exploration of faith and religion in the New World. Obviously, there's a lot of context around Judaism in The Last of Us that they probably want to avoid for the show. I understand that. But I am curious how they grow Dina as an interesting character. Not that Isabella Merced's not a great actor. She was brilliant in Alien, where she's also pregnant. So it's not that I doubt she can do it. I just think it's a bold change to the story to cast a Latina woman instead of a Jewish woman. And I don't know how that's going to change the dynamic of their relationship. Because I think Dina having faith is more than just she knows what a synagogue is. She is a person who is not faithful as in loyal, but full of faith and hope. She believes in something bigger in a way Ellie does not. Now, I mean, they could still make her Jewish. They could make her Catholic. They do what they want. Right. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how they build that relationship without the obvious influence of faith.
Yes, I totally agree. I hope that she isn't sidelined, because I could see them just kind of not doing anything.
Yeah, she's here. Hello.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most important relationships
in
The Last of Us Part 2. In fact, I'd say it's the most important. I know Joel and Ellie as well, but I think Dina and Ellie, to me, is the standout of that game.
Yeah.
That's why they are also on my list.
Depends on whether you count Abby and Ellie as a relationship.
Yeah. If we're talking...
Abby and... Yeah. There's no point like pitting them against each other saying, actually, Abby and Lev. It's a crucial relationship to that game. They need to get it right. Yeah,
totally agree. And you both know me, and I'll never stop beating the drum for this game. Red and Antea from Banishers.
Yeah.
One of the greatest love stories in video games. This is, for the rest of my life, this is going to be that one game nobody played. Like that. It's just, I think it's like such a brilliant, such a great, like a Last of Us level story here, that nobody's ever going to play this game. I think it's a huge shame. Yeah, Don't Nods, Banishers, very Witcher influenced, but on a smaller scale. This is a story about two ghost hunters at the turn of the century, and one of them dies at the beginning of the story and becomes a ghost. And the whole game is about making difficult choices to protect that love and save her life. Essentially, you have to do some really bad things if you want to save her life, and you're constantly having to reevaluate: is it worth it? Are we doing the right thing? Is this really what I want? Is this really what you want? Throughout the whole story, and it's hard, and you really connect with their relationship. They do such a good job with those characters. So, yeah. I know, but I get nothing but blank stares whenever I talk about Banishers.
We did best indie games in the first half of 2024 last year.
Yeah.
And we discussed Banishers, and we did the preview for it as well. I hadn't played it.
Yeah.
But you were really passionate about it. Then I have not played it. It came out at time there's a lot of the game that is never about catching up. But I am surprised, given how fervently you are
that
in
nobody
favor
cares.
of it. Because like there's a lot of other games like that come out. Like George, you did Unknown Number 9, was it called?
Yeah, Unknown 9
and
Awakening.
There's that Sin Duality that's just come out. Like, there's a lot of games that come out that are kind of like, this is kind of well known, and then it dies immediately. I'm not surprised. Banishers is basically that, except there's somebody in my life who is like, this is one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it hasn't had a little bit more of a hook from that.
You know, so for years and years, I championed Prey. And nobody cared.
I was just going to say that, actually. Prey is another really good example of that.
I was just constantly beating the Prey drum to everyone. And I think it eventually sort of got its reevaluation. It was probably Game Pass that did it. But I think Prey is now regarded as that, like, hidden gem. Like, I think that shows up on all those lists of, like, the best games people haven't played or whatever. This doesn't even show up on those lists, right? Like,
there's still time. I mean, obviously, Prey
it came out last year.
Got wrapped up in kind of the reevaluation of Dishonored, and then there was Deathloop. So we need Don't Nod to keep doing things.
Yeah, I hope this is one that comes around later on, because it got completely overlooked, and it's not even like it has bad reviews. I think it's like low 80s or something. Like So okay. Stacey, do you want to say anything about Chloe and Rachel?
Yeah, that was on my list. Banishers got 78, by the way.
Okay. Good score. That's a good score. Okay.
There's quite a few across Life is Strange that I think are really interesting. Obviously, you've got Chloe and Rachel. You've got Max and Chloe. You've got Alex and...
She's making up names again, everybody.
Sarah? Alex? No, Alex's name. Alex was Alex Chen. I know that. I think the one in that is Sarah. The new ones I don't think they're good romance.
No, they're not great.
Yeah. And I don't like the way that Max and Chloe's relationship is treated in the new one. I know people are like, it's how she would act. It is not. Is my answer to that. Chloe, I think, is a really fascinating character in Life is Strange, because for people who haven't played it, Chloe is kind of a burnout, basically. You know, she has dyed blue hair and she smokes, and her stepdad is in the army and they don't get on. And very classic case. Max is kind of a quiet, well-behaved kid, but also very, very strange. It came out around the time of when Juno was like the coolest film to exist.
Sure.
So Max is very like Juno. And they bring the best out of each other. But the context of that is Chloe's previous girlfriend, Rachel, has gone missing. And you're not really sure whether she's run off and gone away, because she said she was going to do that. But she's also was hanging out with just awful people before she ran away. And you're not really sure if she's dead. And I don't know, skip the next minute if you don't want to know the answer to this game that came out in 2015. The answer is she is dead. She was killed by one of the people at the school, and then there's a whole causality arc around like whether Chloe and or Max can escape that fate and what that means for the people in their lives. There's another character in the game who dies of suicide because of things kind of linked to this. I think underneath all of that, their relationship is probably the purest expression of like awkward teenage love that I've seen in a game. And the part, because it is so awkward and childish, you know, we spoke at the very start about Ichiban being like, I don't know, immature and overly romantic, over enthusiastic. They kind of have that going on with them. You know, like they've been together for a few months, and it's like, I will destroy the world to save you.
Yeah.
So when in the new game, when Chloe's not in it, you can basically choose whether Chloe died, which is a possible ending for the original game, or whether Chloe lived, which means you saved her life because you were so madly in love with her, and then you broke up with her. Now, some people were like, oh, well, you know, they were just kids in love. It happens. Young love, you know, your first love is not always the one that lasts, even though it's the one that, you know, always kind of feel. I didn't feel like it was just a kind of fling. I felt like they were written as canonical, have to be together. Not a kind of tragic Romeo and Juliet, but like a real in any universe, they will find each other kind of love. So when I played the new Double Exposure, you choose whether Chloe died or lived. In my game, she lived because that's how I played Max. Max would do anything for Chloe. I really could not face, to be honest, the idea of my Max breaking up with Chloe, or Chloe breaking up with her, and then she writes kind of these angry notes in a scrapbook about how they've drifted apart. So I was just, Chloe died. Because it was easier as a player to go, no, they had a really tragic romance. Max made an impossible choice that Chloe accepted, and Max has never gotten over it, than it was to be like, yeah, they're not together anymore. I'm going to go and date Vin from the post office.
Jeez, say so if I can't have you, no one will, huh?
Yes.
It is the best way to approach that.
You killed her because they couldn't be together.
Yeah, it's butchered. Not good at all. Like, I don't even, if I'm honest, I never really liked Max and Chloe relationship in general. Like, I think it's sweet, but I find them
were you with the weird kid who stood outside the window?
No. But they're just like, I think it's a like tone thing with the first Life is Strange. I find it really hard.
You have to understand, Juno was the coolest thing in the world.
I wasn't born then. I don't know that, but it's so like hella and bitchin' and
heading to the mosh pit, Shaka bra.
Like it sends chills down my spine, and I never liked it, but I can understand why they work. And then Double Exposure is just like, lol, no.
This is culture clash. You're insulting my generation.
Sorry, Juno lovers.
Let me say something controversial. I don't think Mario and Princess Peach are a couple.
I think Odyssey would support that.
A couple at all.
No, I don't. I don't think they are together in any form of definition of that word.
I think they
are.
The
most recent game ends with him crashing her wedding while dressed as a groom.
Yes.
Yeah, but then she says no. She says no.
And she says no.
She does immediately say no.
She immediately says no. And it's not like, oh, that's so sweet. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah. You and
your like a braid situation.
Well, look, no, I think she is nobility and she needs a hero to protect her, and that's their dynamic. She has kissed him on the cheek. I'm confident that's as far as they have ever gone. They don't live together. They don't go on dates. They don't even talk. I don't think that Mario and Princess Peach are together.
I think that's just bad characterization. I think they're intended to.
It's more like he's like the head knight, and she's the royalty. I think that they admire each other, and he is sworn to protect her. But I don't think that's a romantic relationship.
I mean, you could even make that argument about Link and Zelda all the way up until like Skyward Sword, where it's more like they have a relationship. And
I'm not getting involved in the messiness of the Link and Zelda relationship, and I'm just not doing it. I find Zelda fans to be the most insufferable people on the planet, and I know Tomb Raider fans.
Yeah, I'm not getting into that canon. But yeah, just as I don't believe
both gay and trans and straight. I'm not doing it.
Just as I don't believe it's ever established that Mario and Luigi are actually brothers.
And yes, I knew this was going to come out of this theory.
I do not believe Mario and Princess Peach are a couple.
But
do you believe Luigi and Daisy are? Do you believe they're a couple?
Yeah. Look at them.
Luigi fucks.
They love each other. Okay. Yes, so we mentioned Zelda. We mentioned Peach. We have to mention Cody and May. No one's favorite, obviously, because it is. I'm talking about It Takes Two.
I thought you meant Final Fight. Yeah. Cody and May. Bad. Yeah. Not a good message from that game at all.
I think
like
the execution is the problem.
Yeah, I like their relationship. I just never liked the message. It's like they were going to be divorced, then it's like, no, the solution is not to be divorced like that. That ruins families. It's like, well, I don't think that's a good message. But I like their relationship.
They fixed their relationship.
Yeah, well, I hate that book. I hate that book. The passion.
No, they reconnected. They remembered why they love each other. Like, they found it through revisiting their memories and their experiences, and
until Cody leaves Skids again, and then they go for the whole thing.
Fine. I'm just not particularly interested in those characters. That's what it comes down to.
No, they're quite boring, and Cody offers nothing.
Yes,
in life.
They're dorks.
He's not even really a good dad, which is like the one thing he should be.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Drake and Elena?
Oh my god, they were second pick on my list.
Drake and Elena.
Nathan Drake, Uncharted.
Oh,
I love those
we're
two.
on surname basis for these two. Yeah,
I think they're fantastic.
I don't like Uncharted anyway as much as George.
I love Uncharted. I think one of the things that's so special to me is, the Uncharted games take place over a series of time, and you see their relationship evolve over time. Like at the end of the first one, you think they're going to be a thing forever, but it doesn't last. The second one, they reconnect. Third one, they got married and then divorced or like separated. The fourth one, though, is like the pinnacle of their relationship. The scenes they have, like one of my favorite scenes in a game, and I think one of Naughty Dog's best romantic relationships, is when Nate is in that room when they found Libertalia, and he's examining like how these pirates died and they all got poisoned, and then Elena's just watching him from afar, like do his thing and realizing like how into it he is and like how much it means to him for them to do it together as well, for him to teach her all about it and take her. And I think just the way that whole thing is done without much words besides Drake explaining what happened to the pirates, I think masterful. I love those.
And
two.
they play Crash Bandicoot together.
And they play Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
So total win.
I do like how it resolves. I don't like how much of that game she is treated like the nagging, like the bitchy woman,
Yeah.
How like you're on this adventure with Drake and she has a problem with it,
And it's not even like that, because she's even at the start of the game, she's encouraging him to do that Malaysia job that they would have had to do without permits. Like she knows how much it means to him.
Yeah.
I think that's how you interpret it. Like it kind of, to Drake it probably seems like that, but if you're if you know Elena, you know that she realizes how much it means to him as much as it means to him.
It's the line that's the issue, obviously, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like this is one of those Yennefer and Triss things where it's like, but shouldn't he be with Chloe? She's so much cooler. She's so much hotter. She's.
I love Chloe, but no, not.
Shouldn't he be with Lara Croft and not like this normie? Like, why is he tying himself down to this normie?
Elena's twice the adventurer that Chloe is.
Whoa,
that's a stand I'm taking today.
It's nowhere near as outrageous as you saying it's the best Naughty Dog romance, which we let you get away with. I'm just going to go back and say it's absolutely not.
I think it is. I love it. I know it's really plain Jane boring. Like the dynamic is adventurer, non-adventurer becoming a pair, but I love it. I know it's classic, but I think it works, especially in Uncharted 4.
Stacey, we didn't save a lot of time for this, but you haven't talked about Mass Effect and Dragon Age at all.
I avoided the kind of squad-based RPGs because we've just done party-based, because I speak about those a lot. And there's a lot of great romances in that. Obviously, I put Baldur's Gate in that category as well.
Yeah.
But I think they are a little bit too driven by the player that I wanted to talk about them today. Mm-hmm. I feel like all the ones that we've discussed have been either canonical or things that you kind of lean towards. The one that I would bring up from Mass Effect is if you don't romance Garrus or Tali, which you should not for this reason, they will romance each other. And it's not like in the Veil God where they just kind of Nev and Lucius. Who cares at this point?
Who knows?
Where it's not like where they just Lucanus is his name.
Yes.
Nev and Lucanus chat. So like they Garrus and Tali are from your side through all three games. I believe they're the only characters who are in all three games. Liara's only a DLC in 2, so they're the only characters who are there the whole time as squad mates. They go through everything together, not just with you, but with each other. They are the most similar, just biologically, in terms of the rest of the group. They're not kind of a form of human in the way that Asari is kind of very similar to that, but they're also not a great big hulking beast, the way that Rex and Grunt and things are. And you will kind of walk in on them having like small conversations with each other. Or if you take them on missions, they'll basically kind of like flirt while the world is being destroyed. And you think, save it for another time, guys. And then when you do the Citadel DLC, which is like a party at the end of the world, they can hook up there and you get to see a different side of their relationship. So if I was going to bring Mass Effect to this, which I guess I just have, I would do Garrus and Tali with each other as being the really interesting relationship in Mass Effect. Because again, it kind of before games were doing that, as regularly, having two squad mates who were both optional romances who would romance each other in a way that felt realistic and earned by the series as a whole is really interesting. And they definitely won't keep it as canon if they both come back, because too many people love Garrus. There's too many people who their romance is Garrus. Garrus is theirs and no one else's. But it would be really interesting to see how they do Garrus and Talia if they do both come back. I would like to see them build on that, but they probably won't.
I feel like that's the one I hear the most, or maybe I just hear it from you. Because you wrote about that.
Yeah, that's the very first article that I wrote for the game, and there's a little bit of. And do you want to know what day I wrote it on? Oh my god, it's come full circle.
Valentine's.
It was Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good show, everybody. Good show. Okay, any more shout outs before we go?
No.
Right. We've talked about a lot of them.
Mention.
Yeah, that was great. Well, I know that is certainly not an I know that's certainly not an exhaustive list. So those are our favorite video game romances. But please make sure you tell us your favorite video game romances too. Leave us a comment down below. That's it for this episode of Your Favorite Game. We'll be back next week with a brand new one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.